First, was Starmer wrong to ignore immigration in his plan for change speech yesterday? The Prime Minister revealed the so-called 6 milestones he said would be reached by the end of this Parliament, including pledges on extra police officers, more house building, fixing the NHS and so on. But some critics were quick to point out migration didn't make the list. And the Express front page, which I have got just, let me see, definitely got it here. Here we are. Says, do you know what? They've all got Christmas ads on. Let me just take the ad off. Right. There we are. That gets to the heart of the matter. You can't keep ignoring the biggest problem, Sir Keir. Tory leader Kemi Badenoch also hit out and said the plans contain nothing concrete on immigration, adding the government doesn't know what it's doing. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage tweeted that milestones didn't include immigration or the exploding population, and this reset, he said, offers no change or guarantees economic failure, he says. There we are. He was asked by Sky News' political editor Beth Rigby if he didn't include immigration in his key pledges because he, Starmer, feared failure when it came to tackling migration. And this is what he had to say.
The way we've constructed it is that there are foundational things that a government must do, and they are based on security. So national security is obvious, but border security is equally obvious in my view. And that's why I've said we are committed to bringing down immigration, both legal and illegal. We must stop people crossing in boats across the Channel, and we have to get to grips with the volume of regular migration we have in this country.
What is going on here? You know, what Labour did not want is for people to say you broke all your election promises. That's the background. They don't want their promises at the election to end up as landfill, because basically if they catch fire, then the party burns with them. So they did something different. When the election happened, if we go back 5 or 6 months, Keir Starmer talked generally. He had his big red bus, leaflet with the word change on, change, 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 change. That was the message was just change. That's what he was saying. Did Labour keep it too vague? That's the question. Now, of course, you've got to remember this. This was the Ed Stone, 2015. Ed Miliband, then Labour leader, has an 8-foot limestone sculpture with lots of promises on it. It was a disaster. The newspaper said it was a Kinnock moment. They sort of ripped him to shreds over it. And then it was all kinds of memes making fun of him. And so you can see why Keir Starmer didn't want to be mocked like that. OK, the problem is he then won the election without people knowing what he was doing. So he had, if you like, surprise policies. So removing the winter fuel payment, you get angry pensioners. Changing inheritance tax, you get angry farmers. And then increases the employer's tax he brought in. Again, a surprise, angry bosses. So this has gone badly for them. And then yesterday we have, it is a kind of reset. It's almost like this is now the election cap. These are the promises that we should have had during the election. Household income will rise. Pupils will be school ready by the time they start primary school. Waiting list, nearly all people, 90% plus, won't wait more than 18 months in the NHS. 1.5 million homes, 13,000 more police, clean power. That's the Ed Miliband thing. And so what people are saying is, OK, fine, if that's what you're now promising, but you missed something out. And this is the question of our time, is whether this is such a big issue that it just dwarfs everything else. So there they are, the small boats crisis, almost submerging the Prime Minister and certainly submerging the coverage, Charlie, of his speech yesterday.
I think that's exactly right. And you mentioned Ed Miliband there. It reminded me immediately when he was leader and he gave his conference speech without notes. And the biggest issue of the time was the economy. And Ed Miliband failed to even touch on the economy. So missing something out gets more coverage and more pickup. Totally understandable why, given the failures of the past, failures of successive governments to be able to tackle illegal and legal migration, just to get the numbers down, to make sure that all the public services we enjoy are manageable and can still be managed. But the idea not to mention it at all, not to even set any kind of target of which the great British electorate can mark his homework by. You can have targets in the NHS, you can have targets in schools to make sure that they're performing better, that those waiting lists are coming down. You must say to the British people, when it is such a hot topic, I'm going to tackle immigration, whether it's legal or illegal, and this is how we're going to do it. They came in bold as brass to say, we're going to get rid of that Rwanda deterrent, which cost far too much and too much money was being spent on it, but at least it was a deterrent of some description. What are they replacing it by? How are they actually going to do it? And what markers can the British public judge the Labour government on when it comes to tackling migration?
Maybe it isn't as important as lots of people think, Carrie.
It matters, however, and I think Keir Starmer has stated that it matters. I think what I hate to see, just as a punter, is the fact that we have been taught to other each other at such an extreme level. Where is our spirit of giving? Where is our spirit of serving gone? Where is our spirit of welcome gone? What's happened?
Well, we're quite law-abiding. No, hang on. We're quite rules-focused, aren't we, in this country? And if somebody's, let's say, got married to an American and they're going a legal way of getting them registered, getting them citizenship, and then they see at the weekend 200 people show up on boats, they get offended.
I think we have to ask what's happening for those people that are on boats. There's 30,000 people this year fleeing war, fleeing poverty, climate change, all those things.
Fleeing France, a lot of them.
Because they didn't start in France, did they?
No.
These are not French citizens.
Well, so it's a good point, Charlie. This just shows that we're becoming an unkind bunch of people.
Well, I think that's the sticking point, because I think, yes, you're seeing, and we saw riots over the summer because of what was obviously fake news, and the alleged attacks was linked to some sort of migration or illegal migration or whatever. Of course it wasn't. But the reason why we're becoming so dispirited, when you take the Ukraine, for example, millions of people, thousands of people opened their hearts and their homes to people fleeing Ukraine, because that was in the great British tradition of welcoming people that are fleeing that war and conflict. But it's what sours the mood of the country is when you see that the element of unfairness. And it is categorically unfair when you see, and this is where we might disagree, the small boats of people, of men, young men that are coming over from France. So they've crossed, you're right, they're not coming from France. Where have they come from? The returns agreement that the last government had in was with 90% returns with Albania. So you've got people from Albania crossing all the way through Europe to get to France, to then hop on a small boat, and it is a dangerous, perilous journey to come to the UK. People think that is unfair, and that's why they want it stopped.
I will come to you, Carrie, in a second, but let's just go to Janet in Bradford. Janet, what do you think? This is a big mistake here. He has 6 top policies and immigration is not one of them.
Do you know what, Jeremy? I would like immigration to be addressed at the top of his list, because that impacts on so many things. We've got people coming across, and I do feel sorry for them, and nobody wants to live in a war zone. They all want they all want good for the children. They are moving across Europe. They are moving across safe countries, just like your guest just said, and they're getting on a boat, and they are doing the most dangerous journey to come to the UK. Now, immigration impacts on our schools, our NHS, jobs. It impacts on the whole of our living. And you can call us unkind or you can call us selfish, but if we were looking after our own first, I don't think you would have that many people feeling so bitter about it.
OK, Janet, thank you. There's been a poll, by the way, by Find Out Now. They call this kind of new polling group, Voting Intention. Going to show it to you now, because it's really interesting, because what you've got now, Labour in third, behind the Conservatives and Reform. So if you add the 2 blues together, you get 50%. That's interesting in itself. Labour, not even half that. Lib Dems bumping along. They've fallen back, the Lib Dems, since the election. Of course, their success at the election was partly because the Conservatives cratered. But I'm looking at that thinking, when people say Nigel Farage is the next Prime Minister, Carrie, I'm not sure I don't think they're necessarily going to be wrong.
I think that what we've come to think of in politicians is we want really extreme statements. And I think you were right about the fact that Labour were really vague before the election, which is why we've been waiting. Me personally, as a lifelong Labour supporter, I wanted to know, so what is the vision? And I feel like this is the first time I've really seen the vision. And I like what the vision says. It remains to be seen whether it will be implemented. But I think that if we are talking about just the ideology of kindness, like the same people that would be opening their homes to Ukrainians who are fleeing war, probably would not be the people that would be condemning people in boats. I think that's a strange maths to do. I think that there are people who are compassionate. I'm also not convinced that when we go into hospitals, I've been in hospital 4 times actually in the last 8 weeks. I'm surrounded by people serving our NHS who don't have a British accent. We rely on these people coming to this country, and we are still short-staffed. So
We've got a lot of young British people who aren't working for reasons that still are quite mysterious. After the break, we're taking more of your calls. Should Keir Starmer have included immigration as one of the pledges in his big speech yesterday? 0207 862 2222. One of the things we're talking about Keir Starmer. We haven't really mentioned he did his speech at Pinewood, which is where, of course, the Bond movies are filmed. And he made a joke. I'll just show you on my iPad here. He made a joke about him and Bond.
If I keep coming back here, I could be the next James Bond.
So there we go. And we thought we can take a quick shortcut here and let's have a look at what Starmer would look like if he was in a Bond film. There he is. There he is, everyone. How about that?
looks good.
He looks the part. He's got the chiselled.
He's on his way to someone that's tweeted something wrong or something. He's policing.
There we go. Anthony, thank you to our graphics department for knocking that up. Anthony in Lancashire, hi.
Hello, good morning, Jeremy.
So what do you think? Did the speech miss out immigration, and was that bad?
Well, basically, everybody knows there is a problem with immigration, but what I feel that we're forgetting, and we seem to be falling into something, we're falling into an obsession with immigration. And I agree with the lady on the panel, is it Carrie?
Carrie, yeah.
I agree totally. We're losing compassion. We're losing morality, because I'm 60 years of age nearly. I have very little in life. I don't drive. I haven't got a house. But what I do have is compassion for my fellow man. And I honestly believe that this obsession should be pointed into other directions, like the division in equality in society. It's not because of immigration. We're all being told that it's because these people are getting loads of money. They want to get here. It's not the truth. The truth is the money is being squandered from the top downwards.
Okay, Anthony, thank you very much. Thank you. Shirley in Hampshire, hi.
Hello.
What do you think, Shirley?
I just think every man or woman on the street has to budget their money. And we're all sensible about it. We know what we've got to do. And the government's not doing that. It's spending money that it hasn't got on things that it shouldn't do.
Like, Shirley?
Every time somebody comes into this country and they need a hotel or a bed, they're taking money from the people off of the streets that are poor.
Mm. Well, I mean, that is an expense. Was it £6 million a day or something we were spending?
If we've got this great big black hole, surely the government has got to be honest with people that are trying to get to this country and say, we haven't got any money to spend on you. Please don't come here.
Yeah, but I don't think we could say that, can we? Because, look, if you fall over in the street, wherever you're from, you smash your head open, you are going to get treatment at A&E. If they then discover you've got a neurological condition, you're going to be seen by a brain surgeon. And it's possible that even as a visitor to this country, you can then have £500,000 worth of operation on your brain. And that's an amazing thing.
Why did they close that barge? Why didn't they let the people that are sleeping on the streets have the barge?
Yeah, well, good point.
Or
Thank
crisis.
you. Thank you, Shirley. That's good. I don't know that Bibby Stockholm was a funny one because it wasn't a prison because people could wander on and off it.
Well, the argument I would put is the other way around because I think, as Shirley was saying, you've got veterans in this country, people that have actually served in this country who are homeless. Now, that is a huge problem that no government, for some reason, hasn't been able to solve. I would argue that those people deserve the hotel rooms that we're spending as taxpayers £6 million a day on. And then if you've got the Bibby Stockholm to obviously house and host people that have come over illegally, that would be a better way, I think, a more fair way of doing it.
I agree. I mean, it is a terrible, terrible thing. I don't know whether part of the reason for housing the migrants is that some of them have young children. But you're right, if you're a homeless veteran, you don't get into a hotel.
I think
How
there's
do
an
we
argument for
justify
that.
that?
I think that the caller just talked about, that money should be going to the poor. And I think that we need to think about the fact that we have a social underclass in this country, and what are we doing to give hope to those people? This country feels so hopeless. How do we find hope? For me, it's not about othering. It's not about saying we don't like these people, they're the ones that are a drain on the system. It's about providing some level of hope. And I feel like that's what people are desperate for. And yes, that might involve some work that needs to be done in immigration, of course, but there's a whole thing about our poor. What are we doing when people that are working in our NHS are still having to go to food banks? So I think the idea of raising the standards of living, that seems like a really good thing.
Yeah, I mean,
I like
it's
the
a little bit
pledges.
vague.
I think they may be vague, but we need something positive. Just give us something to believe in now.
Gosh. Oh, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with any of that.
No, well, I think, and it goes back to what Anthony was saying earlier on, when we're obsessed about immigration in particular, I think that's actually true. And I think what would have been better for the Labour Party and for Keir Starmer was to address immigration and say, you know what, we're going to have a proper conversation about it, and say the numbers of legal migration has been high, it is too high, but you know why it's high? Because those people are coming in to work in our NHS, and that should be supported. So don't get fixated by the numbers. Don't sort of, throw your toys out of the pram because you keep hearing figures are too high. But when it comes to illegal migration, which I know is small, but it is significant when you see people coming in small boats, when you see people having to be housed in their hotel rooms, and those people are using public services, which is bringing down living standards in those communities, that's what needs to be addressed.
Cheryl is in Paris. Hi, Cheryl.
Good morning.
What do you think of this? Did he make a big mistake yesterday not mentioning?
Yeah, very big mistake, because if you listen to people, the first thing on their mind is immigration.
Yeah.
She's not wrong.
I worked in Africa during the 80s as a nurse, and you have to be there to know it.
Yeah.
They are tribal, well, not unfortunately, that's the way they are. They brought it here. Our people come first.
No, hang on a minute.
In the
We can't be doing.
situation-
No, we can't be doing that kind of stereotype, Cheryl. There are many great countries in Africa which are very modern. Probably got more modern.
They may
than us
look
in some ways.
modern, but
Right.
on the surface they're not.
Okay, but you sound like you're just not in favour of people from Africa coming to this country.
It's not Africa, it's everywhere. I mean, they come in from countries like Albania, Turkey, you name it, and there's nothing wrong with them. Nothing wrong with those countries
Okay.
that are going to massacre people when they come. We need, and the idiots that have done this to our country should be gone.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. I'm only moving on because I want to get one more call in. Bianca in Kent, hello.
Hello, good morning.
That was a bit lively.
Yes, I think he made a massive mistake. I think that should have been number one, because I think that a lot of the other issues, like the NHS and the schools, they are all a result of the immigration problem. So
Well,
I think
Carrie said the opposite, which is that the NHS wouldn't function without immigration.
No, do you know, my niece was a nurse at Bupa, and she left because everyone else there was foreign, and she was the only English-speaking person
A
there.
nurse at
And I
Bupa, that's a
think
kind of
that-
like a private.
Yep.
Okay.
And
yeah.
I think that's what's happening to the hospitals, because there's so many foreign people working there. English people don't want to work there anymore.
All right, thank you. Wow, we went kind of Wild West there, didn't we? Thank you, Bianca. Thanks for all your calls on it. Later we're